Just a little bit of background. I'm a soil scientist. It's very different to many of the other scientists that you'll see out there. It's basically a geologist for soils. And so I worked a lot in agriculture and that. And do a lot of stuff with the turf farmers and home fact sheets, irrigation guidelines for Darwin, anything like that. So really unusual sort of things. It's a really cool job actually, except when it's hot and you have to dig holes. Most of you would know me from some of the sporting fields where we've done it, and we've got fields to handle 45 to 55 hours a week of use. So that's where most of you would know me from. Okay, you want to keep going? I'm just going to present you some numbers. We were able to get some player numbers from the football associations. The other one we couldn't get was rugby union. So we've got player numbers on all the sporting fields, all the natural turf sporting fields. We've got the synthetic ones too, but they're not in our write-up of the sporting fields in the North Shore. So that's everywhere east of Windsor Road and everywhere north of the Parramatta River. We didn't get every field. We got about 95% of them because some of them are privately owned or some of them have got fences around them and we couldn't get access to them, okay? Now what we found, there was about 70,000 very roughly registered players using these fields during the winter sports season. The reason why it's approximate is because we didn't have the rugby numbers. We've taken a stab at that, okay? What we found is on Sydney's North Shore, about half of those sporting fields actually received low levels of wear. Now what do we define as low levels of wear? Less than 175 players per field. Now that's their training and they're playing on the weekend. Now you might think 175 players, why do we pick that number as the cutoff for low? Because that's what Kikuyu grass can handle, okay? By the way, they say there's a lack of sporting fields in Sydney's North Shore, and there is in isolated pockets. There certainly is, okay? But have a look. If you click on this, click on that thing there. Just click forward. You'll see that actually almost a quarter of the sporting fields on Sydney's North Shore don't even have lights. I didn't expect that number, okay? I was quite shocked when I saw that. We're not talking about the little parks. You know, there's little parks that don't have lights. Now, there actually are some very big sites that don't have parks, okay? There are some very large sites, even in the inner parts of, even some here in the northern beaches, but in the inner parts of Sydney's North Shore that are 4.5 hectares in size. That's 4.5 rugby fields, if you like, so 5 soccer fields in size, no lights, okay? I never expected to find that kind of data, but that's exactly what's out there. Keep going. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about the steps you need to take to get a best practice field, okay? Get a decent soil, get the turf right, get the drainage right, and look after the management. If you want some notes on this, this is a 67-page document that I wrote with Dr. Paul Lamble, and this is a New South Wales government document. And it's been peer reviewed by Graham Logan, who used to be in charge of ANZ Stadium and the Parramatta Stadium. It's been peer reviewed by Peter McMaw, who named Sir Walter Buffalo and built sporting fields and polo fields for Kerry Packer. In fact, he's actually known for telling Kerry Packer off, that guy in our industry. And Dr. Peter Martin, who oversaw the reconstruction of Wembley Stadium. So it's been properly peer reviewed. This isn't marketing material, this is peer reviewed documents, okay? What is best practice turf? Everybody straight away thinks it's got to be able to handle 45 hours a week of use or something really high, right? No, it's only got to handle the usage that it's getting. Some of these fields, they don't have lights, so it's very easy for us to get the grass to handle that, okay? Whereas the fields that are getting smashed, we have to get lots of things right in order for them to get to handle it, okay? Keep going. Okay, the first thing you need in order for a sporting field to be suitable, it's got to be safe, okay? It's got to be even to play on, and it can't be too hard. You can't fall over and hurt yourself. But there are some other safety concerns concerning contaminants. Okay, keep going. With natural turf over the years, there have been issues with asbestos, okay? They're not such an issue anymore, but occasionally they still come up. And in localised areas, especially around the Newcastle area, there were issues with lead and that in some of the materials that they were using to fill areas. Less of a problem in these areas around here, okay? Now, how do we get around that? We write in our guidelines or in our specifications, you have to adhere to Australian standard, right? And it's the same thing that needs to happen with the synthetic fields, okay? You should write in your guidelines that you adhere to, okay, let's make sure that we don't have banned substances in our products. And it doesn't have to cost anybody anything. It can be just a tender requirement. And that way, when the manufacturers or whoever goes to tender for it, they know that they've got to comply with a standard rather than they can do anything. Keep going. In order to be, this field here is safe, it's even, and it's soft, isn't it? You're not going to hurt yourself on that, are you? No, it hasn't got grass on it. It's got to have grass cover as well, and you can't have massive amounts of cancellations, okay? That field there is obviously draining poorly, and you're going to end up with a lot of cancellations. Now, with regards to synthetic turf, it's more to do with the hot weather and intense rain when you have the cancellations. And if you click that, synthetic fields are not suitable for cricket, okay? I'm a cricket player. If you just hit an on drive on a synthetic surface, if it's a hockey field, you know, it's a much lower grass, it'll roll. But if you hit an on drive on one of these fields that have got a tall pile, it won't go anywhere. I'd be lucky to smash it to the wall over there, okay? So I can't actually physically play my game. I've got to change the way I play my game. It changes the nature of it. The heat is a massive issue. We stand out there on days sometimes and it's 35 degrees. A typical sort of day in Sydney where it gets over 30 degrees is about 25, 30 days a year. That's a typical sort of season. Now, that's a significant part of the cricket season, okay? If you're out in Penrith, it's like 70-something days a year. And if it's a drought, those numbers will double for both Sydney and that, okay? It's not a suitable surface. Also, I've got bare arms, yeah? If I'm a cricketer, I'm going to dive and land on it, I'm going to end up with friction burns, okay? It's not a surface for cricket. It's not suitable for cricket. Keep going. Okay, so how do you create a best practice field? And the first thing you need to do is get the soil suitable. When you go to build, say, the SCG or the MCG or that, what they do, they build them out of sand. See the sand up the top there? Sand doesn't hold much water. So what they do is they put gravel underneath it. And the gravel doesn't suck very much, okay? So it's kind of like, imagine you had wet washing that had stopped dripping. If you went and got some gravel and put it underneath it, it wouldn't pull the water out of the washing, would it? Okay? It allows the washing to still stay wet. That gravel layer is not about drainage, it's about making the sand hold more water, okay? Now they also put a lot of coconut fibre in, or you could use compost, okay? That's how they build them. Now councils get this idea that they want to build the MCG or the SCG, but they run out of money. Keep going. So they take the gravel layer out. The gravel layer was making the sand hold water, right? So now all of a sudden you've got sand over something that will suck the water out. If you put a handful of clay, crushed up clay, underneath your wet washing, it'd draw the water out, wouldn't it? And not only that, they didn't have the money for the coconut fibre either. So now you end up with a situation, keep going, where you've got dry sand, and dry sand just slides around, keep going. And it cannot handle these fields. When they build the fields this way with the sand over soil, we've called it SOS for real reasons, the SOS sign should be coming out. They can't handle more than about 250 players a week, okay? And even one of my competitors say they can't handle more than 20 hours a week. So why do councils build the fields this way? Because they're aspiring to build the SCG and they run out of money, okay? Essentially that's what's happened. Here is a field built in 2023 that's built out of basically sand straight over the top of soil. It's not quite sand, this is an 80-20 mix, but very sandy material. You can see it's fallen apart. Go to the next one. Here's another field built in 2023. First thing the club's gonna do is say, we want a synthetic field because turf can't handle it. When in fact, this was just a disaster to start with, okay? They had to build it properly, but they didn't. If you don't have the money, that's easy. Just use soil, just fix soil up, okay? So If you put some compost, you can see I've put some compost in this soil. That'll work, bit of gypsum in it. Whereas this soil here, this is the same type of soil, except it's rock hard, okay? That's not suitable, okay? So basically, to get the soil right, either build the SCG, do it properly, or amend your soil. But don't go these half in-between solutions, they won't work. And this is basically what's happened over time. The one down the bottom right there, that's the average field. There's no amenders in it, no nothing. They haven't done anything. And that's the newer fields. A lot of the newer fields they build, they just run out of money and that's what they do. Yeah. If you put compost into soil, it will handle massive amounts of wear. These fields have the same turf cultivar and they're the same soil type, okay? They both get very high levels of wear. Look at the difference between them. That's just compost. It's like adding cordial to water. That's how effective the compost is. Compost has about 50 units per volume of holding capacity of nutrients, whereas that soil there holds about 5. So you don't have to add much of the 50 in order to make it a lot better. Keep going. Suitable turf. This is one thing that's very low hanging fruit that they don't do. Keep going. This is a field that gets belted and you can see I've just put barriers there or put lines there to show you the difference in wear capacity of these grasses. And you can see that the kikuyu, even though it's a bit greener, is actually just worn out. Yeah, it can't handle more than about 175 players a week. The Cooch 2 up there, which is an older Cooch, it's hopeless too. And the Cooch 1 is much better than all the others, okay? This is the fibre content per square metre. So the amount of really hard material in the grass per square metre for the different grasses. These are the newer grasses. And this is kikuyu, which is the majority of fields. Actually, about 70% of fields in Sydney's North Shore are this grass here. And look at this. These newer grasses have about 4 times the density of fibrous material per square metre as kikuyu. Is that surprising? These grasses were bred in the last 15 years. This grass was bred in 1912. It's just old tech. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just old tech. Okay? And about 10% of the grasses on Sydney's North Shore are actually these grasses. Why on earth they use those, I'm not sure. And some of the time I spend is convincing councils not to use silly grasses. By the way, you can't put more than about 600 players on a soccer field. You actually run out of time slots on the weekend. There are a few exceptions to that rule where they've got really young players and they compromise how much space they have to train on. The most intensely used field I've ever seen has got about 820 players per field. But as a general rule, about 550 players per field is about it. You're running out of physical space. It doesn't matter what you build it out of, you just simply can't book enough time slots on the weekend to fill in the games, okay? So this is Santa Ana. It's one of the better grasses, but not the best grasses. And the soil's reasonable at this site and it's handled 450 players and this is it. I'm showing it recovered here. Keep going. This is Santa Ana, which is the one I just showed you, versus one of the newer ones. You can see one of the newer grasses is even better, okay? If you build the field wrong, it will struggle to handle any use, okay? Wrong grass, layering in the soil, massive problems, okay? Right grass, decent soil, it'll handle it, okay? It's just very, very simple, okay? Keep going. Okay, suitable drainage. This is the thing that a lot of the soccer clubs, and I don't blame them, I'm a cricketer, I'm sick of just having cancellations all the time. The first thing you can do to get a decent draining field is stop the water from the car park, or in this case the netball courts, from running onto the field. Now I know at this particular site it would solve the problem entirely. How do I know that? Because the other side of the field is dry when I walk on it, okay? How many times do you see the amenity building and just near the amenity building is wet, and if you look around you'll often find the gutters are just flowing onto the ground and onto the field. Sometimes they even put the downpipes straight onto the field, okay? It shouldn't have hills or anything like that. Put something around it, stop the water coming onto it. Like just a gutter edge around the edge of that, or just even a swale, anything. Yeah, keep going. Layering problem, this is a massive problem. This is a fairly sandy soil here. And they've bought turf from a turf farm with clay attached. You don't have to do that. You can buy turf from a turf farm where they grow it on sandy soil. And they just patch the goals, and you can see that everything drains except the goals. Okay? Glad wrapping your field. If you do have drainage problems, for about $150,000 a field, you can solve your drainage problems, okay? Now, unfortunately, what's happening is, generally speaking, you need about 2 metres between the sand slits on your fields. A lot of the soccer fields, when they do them, again, the councils don't have enough money, or for whatever reason, they take a shortcut. They'll put the sand slits 4 metres. I've even seen them 8 and 10 metres apart. 4 metres apart is not half as good as 2 metres, right? It's actually a squared relationship. 4 metres apart is a quarter as good as 2 metres, okay? They need to do these things properly. You put the drains in about 2 metres apart. Every design's different, but like if you get it 2 metre spacing when they put the sand slits in, generally your field will drain well, okay? $150,000 a field. Okay, synthetic turf. How much does it cost? Very roughly, it's about $4 million per hectare, okay? Very roughly in today's dollars. Now, in 2014, they upgraded the MCG. They pulled the surface out, put it back again, put the drainage in, okay? If I converted that, it was $1.4 million at the time, but I converted it into today's dollars, and the MCG is about half the price of a synthetic field. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Okay? Just to put that in perspective. Now, we know that the MCG and these other fields can be made to drain rapidly. There is one field that I can think of that's a stadium field where they've messed up. But if you have a look at that footprint there, if you had that level of intensity of rainfall, the cork infill would flow away, okay? So there are other issues related to synthetic and natural turf that are both intertwined here. But look at the price. That's incredible. Okay, $4 million. What could you do for $4 million? Well, you could probably put in about 36 drainage systems. Or you can help 10,000 players, that's just 200 football players on the 36 fields and 77 cricketers on those fields, yeah? Or you can help God's chosen few, 500, right? What are they going to do? Fix my home ground and nobody else's home ground? But I play on the other home grounds anyway. Everybody benefits. This is just a simple comparison of what needs to happen. You'd be better off building 2 MCGs, wouldn't you? Keep going. There are other clubs out there that need to be helped, okay? It's not, we fix this one field. Like there's a field in another council at the moment they've spent an unbelievable amount of money on. What, is nobody else going to get anything fixed for 10 years until they pay for that budget? That's just crazy. Yep, keep going. It's $400 per player to fix the drainage systems on all those fields versus $8,000 per player. That's unbelievable. And it gets worse. In 9 years, they'll need another $1 million to fix the field up again, won't they? Okay, this is just simple economics. Yep, keep going. Okay, you can get fields to drain, but you have to put the drainage system in right, okay, and stop the water running onto the field. That's not a drama at all. Effective management. A lot of councils get wrapped on management, but I say a lot of things can come back to the clubs. Like, I play cricket, and our cricket run-up areas get worn out at the end of or they get compacted. Why can't our cricket club go around with a garden fork and fix those little areas up? It's our cricket field, why wouldn't we? And the same with the soccer clubs. Why can't, this is very, very cheap, this site's got enough space, but why can't the field, if you had movable goals, just be put there next year? It's almost no cost at this particular site. You're just marking the field in a different spot. I mean, you can even put it back in the other spots for finals time if you really wanted to. Or if you don't have enough space, keep going. you can put hybrid turf in very little areas, and you'll see on a lot of soccer fields, it's only areas about twice as big as this that are really bad, except for the fields that have been built really badly, okay? So keep going. So you could put hybrid turf just in these little areas here, okay? Now hybrid turf, where it's got no fibres on the surface, you can play cricket on that too. It's a win all round for everyone. Yep. Don't oversow high use fields. I know soccer clubs want the fields to be green, but the ryegrass can't handle more than about 250 players on it. It just ends up being a trip hazard beyond that anyway. So if you really have a problem with the turf colour, yep, do what they do on the stadium fields and spray paint it green. It sounds funny. Actually, if you put the green colourant on in May, what happens is the grass actually heats up. The colourant actually makes the grass grow faster. And sometimes when you'll see the black lines on soccer fields and that kind of stuff, they're marked up with black instead of white. It'll actually grow more in those areas. In fact, there's a turf farmer out at Bathurst that actually sprays his paddocks, colours his paddocks in order to make the grass keep growing. And then again, when you get to, say, September, you spray it green, it'll come out of that dormancy quicker, okay? You can buy yourself about 3 weeks. Yeah, keep going. Just wanted to finish on this little bit on Middlehead Oval. Many of you would have seen Middlehead Oval. They were going to convert it to synthetic. They would have needed a budget of, at the time, okay, this is going back 2018, I think, they would have needed about $4 million because it's 1.5 hectares in size. When we got asked to convert it to a best practice natural turf field, they only had a budget of $440,000. So all of a sudden we're dealing with 1/9 or 1/10 of the budget that the synthetic turf field would have happened. And that really summarises the problem that is going on here, okay? How are we supposed to try and fix this up? Now we stopped the water running onto the field. We put some amenders into the soil and we used a decent grass, but we put an irrigation system in because the old one had it, okay? But we couldn't afford to put a drainage system in. Didn't have the budget for it. Keep going. Now that field, during the drier years, it performed brilliant, okay? And this is it at the end of the 2019 season, I think it was. Yeah, keep going. And it just keeps greening up and it's done well year after year. It does get dull coloured in the middle of winter, but keep in mind this is like the 90 percentile for usage for sporting fields in Sydney, okay? Keep going. It needs a drainage system, right? That field generally drains okay until there's extended periods of rain, and because there's a rock shelf underneath, eventually it builds up. So 220,000, they could put a drainage system in there. Yep, keep going. But that council has other users. It's already built that field. In other words, this is how it should work. These people had money spent on them, then these people had money spent on them, and then these, and eventually it'll get back round and they'll get their drainage system, okay? That's how it should be working. I just wanted to finish on this thing here. This is a pile of soil with some compost in it that we left on a sporting field for about 6 months. Not this one here, that's just soil. That's soil with the compost in it right there. You can see what a difference it makes, okay? And that's all I wanted to say. That's it.